So I was debating whether or not I was going to post this on IGTV. Number one, because whenever I post firearm related content, I get doxxed on engagement, and I'm not even sure if it's keeping me from actually, getting a shadow banned or not. But here we go. So you can see here I'm doing some simulated stress work. I've got the Ronin Tactics gun belt there, a Vega holster system for my Smith & Wesson firearm. And I'm utilizing a dry fire mag training system, which has a gyroscopic sensor in the magazine itself, as well as the Mantis X Laser Academy system. And here you can see we're doing a modified sandbag burpee with the Bog tack bag there. So what I want people to understand here is related to a video I did with another strength conditioning coach the other day, is to understand what is really required biomechanically, physiologically, of a law enforcement officer, a tactical athlete, someone who's military personnel, when they're in a situation that puts their body into a state of fight or flight mode of hyper focus and tunnel vision, potentially hyperventilation, a number of other sensory deprivation type situations. Say they've been immobilized, or their vision has been blurred, or concussive force of a grenade. Something happens to cause the body to be incapable of performing at its fullest. Even if none of those things are the case, just the sheer situation, the potential for life or death, has a massive impact on not only your mentality and your emotional circumstances, but also your physiology. So the training here is absolutely critical. Understanding the biomechanics, learning to apply skillful force with the right technique, right? Keeping the body under control as we're pulling the firearm, drawing the firearm, developing the right skills in order to draw the firearm from the hip through the holster, depending on what setup you've got working with or what kind of equipment you're currently utilizing. Here you can see I'm running a pretty light setup. Most law enforcement officers and tactical athletes are wearing quite a bit of gear, so moving this fluently and this effectively is much easier to do when you don't have as much gear on. So what we're trying to do with this type of training is simulate the physiological environment of the body being stressed out, tired, fatigued, having to apply physical hand-to-hand combat style movements. You can see here doing quite a bit of athletic movement that involves that punching type motion there with the A-unit landmine system, but then going directly into that dry fire mentality. Now, if I was really getting specific, I would also be running the sensor for the dry fire mag on my phone and then checking my scores. But here I'm just working those intentional mechanics and starting to understand the movement hiccups that my body is going through as I'm trying to draw that firearm coming off of this more martial style movement, right? We're thinking about jiu-jitsu, judo, boxing, various types of martial arts where the body is utilizing the hands, feet, knees, elbows, and just the physical structures of the bony structures of the body to apply force and protect myself, as well as potentially even the individual who is trying to injure or kill me. Right? That is a very, very specific skill set to try to apply when all your body wants to do is try to survive, right? We hear this all the time for police officers who say, I don't even remember what happened, right? Things just got really intense and I just did what I needed to do to go home tonight. And I think if anyone tried to apply the very specific skills of drawing a firearm and or learning some hand-to-hand combat skills, they would realize, number one, how much time that really takes to understand and develop those skills and do them in a proficient way, and then the time required to actually apply those skills and the equipment and skill required to apply them consistently in your training. The fact is, I can tell you right now that when I don't do my firearms work or my hand-to-hand combat style work in my training consistently, I'm definitely rusty. So I can't imagine what it would be like to not have trained those things or not have the necessary tools available from my department, say, or the city applying the right funding to my department to be able to get the training necessary to do that stuff consistently, whether it's hand-to-hand combat or firearms work, and then actually apply it when the time comes, when the chips are down, and when the body is experiencing extreme survival-driven stress. The fact remains that when you go into fight or flight mode, executive function shuts down, you're not making decisions anymore, you're currently making reactions, and hopefully your training will have facilitated the type of reaction that will protect you as well as your potential assailant and let everybody go home safely without being injured and or dead at the end of the night. And that's the hardest part about this entire thing, is that the expectation for police officers and tactical athletes in general is that they're going to have complete and total control over a situation at all times with all variables considered. That's not to say that we shouldn't expect that of our law enforcement officers. We shouldn't expect that of that high level of training that is required to develop these things. But if you look at the lifestyle of a police officer and the resources that they're given, the amount of hours that they put in, it's an extremely stressful job that requires so much mentally, emotionally, and physically. It is very difficult to maintain the type of schedule and the type of training you need to. That's, again, not even accounting for the possibility that your department doesn't have the necessary funding to give you the tools, whether that's equipment, whether that's in-service training. All of these factors need to be considered before you go around mouthing off about how it is law enforcement should behave when something happens. So it's almost impossible to say that, within 30 feet, we're going to be able to draw this firearm and place a shot in someone's leg so that they don't die in this altercation. Anyone who goes through this type of training would very quickly realize how hard it is to control your hands, control your body, and physically go for that firearm to either just protect it and keep the person from taking it from you, or actually draw it and place a shot in a functional and effective way. So I want everybody to understand this when they watch this. Please watch the entire thing and listen and learn.